Welcome back to another episode of Meaningful Topics for Golf, a podcast where we dive into better conversations, stronger connections, and the lessons golf teaches us both on and off the course. I'm here with Cheyanne, and Cheyanne has a lot of insight on working with juniors and families in the golf industry. She's coaching them. And Cheyanne, I'd love to hear just a little bit about yourself as we get started.
Oh, thank you for having me in the first place. I'm super excited for this podcast, and I hope what we bring here today gives you a little insight and motivation to pick up the game too. Mm-hmm. So my name is Cheyanne Stewart. I've been coaching for 3 years at Dobson Ranch Golf Course. I've been playing for 10 years now. And I'm currently the director of junior golf of the Dobson Junior Youth Golf Program, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that provides free clinics and golf clubs to ages 3 to 18 years old. And it's a player development program as well, utilizing Operation 36. There's a lot of other programs at Dobson, like Golf Gals, Quantum Golf Academy, and then I also coach, an assistant coach, at Mesa Community College too. So it's been super fun these past 3 years and super excited to just continue to grow the game wherever that calling is. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like a lot of different callings for you, and you're definitely growing the game and being kind of inundated in the industry, and specifically with coaching. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge relationship focused position. When you coach, you're invested in people and their progress. And so that's one thing I've noticed about you. I think we met a few years ago, and immediately, like, you're just so passionate about coaching, and I can see that come out in every conversation we have. Like somehow it's just like you share about that as a hobby, also your life goal, and then tying it back into relationships in almost every conversation that we mention about how you're doing with coaching. So that is quite a full schedule though.
But it's fun though.
Okay, good.
It doesn't feel like work, it's just a passion, right? So
that's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to hear that you're in all those areas, because I think you're a really fantastic person to be coaching and investing in the golf industry, and also just growing the game.
It's not just, it's continuous like personal work, right? Just getting better at just fine tuning every year, so that way the programs can flourish in the right direction.
That's amazing. How many years have you been coaching? Let's just talk about the junior program for today. How long have you been teaching and coaching juniors?
For 3 years now, and it's really cool. My first year, the first clinic, there was only like 12 kids in the clinic.
Wow, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the second year it went to like 150, and then the second season it was up to like 200. Now we had to fine tune by making sure attendance was good, and then the juniors that were passionate about the game and passing their skills test, they get that early RSVP.
Yeah, and as you said, like, you learn each year on how to adjust it and what fits best for your group and juniors. So that sounds like a really good solution to meeting all the needs and all the different levels.
Yes, yeah, and I could not have done it without like the coaches at Dobson at all. That they're passionate, they're focused on the quality too, making it fun most importantly, and just seeing the bigger picture too. It's more than about the game, making these juniors golfers, right? It's about, we don't know where they're coming from, right? In terms of home life, right? So the 1 hour they're spent at Dobson, we want to make sure it's really fun, right? It's memorable. They can be a kid, right? And then leave like looking forward to the next time.
Oftentimes we don't hear those words, golf and fun, in the same sentence. It's nice that I think now currently our culture around golf has become more of a sport that's enjoyable.
Yes.
But for those who've been playing for years and years and years, they might sometimes have this love-hate relationship with that sport, and then getting their children to enjoy it is even more difficult, because for them it's like a sport of discipline, and they find so many challenges that they have to overcome. As an adult, we kind of love that, right? This is like a hobby where we see self-improvement and growth. As a child, that's really tough. So what are some strategies you use to make golf fun for the juniors?
So we do a lot of strategies. I think the first thing that we do at the beginning of every clinic, we set the intention. Having like the word of the week, it can be like gratitude, honesty, sportsmanship, teamwork, right? And that's what we're focusing on throughout the entire clinic, instead of like, here's the skill, and then this is what we got to do. You got to execute. Here's all these drills. You got to be perfect, this and that, right? But it's more so having fun, saying hi, right? Creating those relationships, and then after that, we go through the skills lightly. We let them experiment, be curious, allow them to find their own swing, and then we take a break, and that's when we implement a gamified fun game, pretty much, so that way they can just find that flow and just trust what they were practicing on at the beginning of the clinic. So that, I think that's what balances out the fun part, allowing the juniors to be curious and discover their body, right? And then us as coaches, we're just leading them, right? We're helping them, not telling them what to do, and technique wise. But yeah, I think that's what makes it special in the program itself too. So
Adjusting that, like you said, meeting
them where they're at. And so have you noticed that with different groups that come through, like one
game really hits and another game's like, this group doesn't really get this game or doesn't like it, I'm gonna change it up?
Sometimes it's honestly, the juniors love the range, right? They want to hit the ball far, high, everything, right? But when it comes to the putting green, it can be boring, right? Because it's true. Like, okay, we're hitting it soft. The ball's not traveling far. So that's when we have to really gamify it, split the group up into smaller groups and have them compete against each other. Use a lot of props too, like collecting coins, and then the team with the most coins at the end, that's when they get really engaged. They start talking out loud, right? And helping each other, and then that's when they're in the zone, right? And that's when us as coaches, they're doing the thing, and we can just kind of step back and just observe, but still help out a little bit, right? But that's the whole point of learning, right? Exactly. They're self-discovering through the games itself. So that's rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you're right. That's exactly how they learn and grow. And then that teamwork aspect is huge.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't get that with golf when it's such an individualistic sport.
It is, yeah. It can be viewed that way too. I know for when we take the juniors out to the back short game area and they have those performance tests where they play 3 holes, at the very start, we just make sure they're playing a scramble, right? So that's when they're talking to each other, communicating, high-fiving and stuff, and that's what makes it fun. And I think that's what, again, a lot of these juniors probably won't play high school golf, right? So introducing different formats, so when they go out and play on their own later down the road, or with their parents too later that week, they can play those formats instead, and it's a lot less pressure.
On the topic of families and going out and enjoying a fun round as a group, what is some advice that you'd recommend, or things that you've seen as worked really well when a family brings out their children to the golf course?
I think the biggest thing is, since we have Operation 36 in our program too, which is really neat, we start the juniors at 25 yards, and then once they pass a par 36, then they scoot back. So when the parents have that app on their phone, and they bring their kids out onto the golf course, they can just whip out that phone, set everything up at Dobson or whatever golf course they're playing at. And the neat part is the phone actually buzzes when they get to 25 yards.
Oh, wow.
So that way the junior can just drop their ball and then actually play from their actual skill level, instead of playing from 300 yards away and just okay, are we there yet, right? 10 shots later or more, right? So they still get to hit their drive, they can chip and then putt in and actually get their own real score too. So awesome. I think that's what makes it fun, even more. What I've seen in our program now compared to last year when we didn't have the Operation 36.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's
so cool.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
within that app, is it a free app or?
We do have to pay for it,
Okay.
the program itself, but we don't like have the parents pay like additional or anything. Like it's included once they sign up, even the 3 to 6 year olds too. And we encourage them to utilize it just to get familiar with it. And they have like a bunch of games and drills ranging from putting all the way to full swing too, a whole library of drills. And then that's when they can like record their rounds too. And then they have all the golf courses internationally on the app too. And then they have videos of like the 12 skills too. That way the parents can actually watch the videos. And when the kids are practicing on their own, the parent knows like, hey, this is what my junior learned, and I can help them what they're trying to accomplish within their practice time, one-on-one. So it's definitely brought the families closer together, and then bigger picture, the community. So we're all working together just to nurture the juniors.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love that you have that option for that program, and I'm going to be looking at that after this and seeing what courses are on there so I can encourage other juniors to do.
I'm pretty sure Bel Air is on there too. I would not be. I would be surprised.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, again, meeting the junior where they're at and making it fun it sounds like a theme throughout our conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Within Operation 36, do they group by ages?
Oh no. So in the Dobson Junior Youth Golf Program, we base it off of the 36-year-olds are definitely in their own age bracket. But then after that, it's based on skill, right? So just like us as adults, or when I first started playing, I started playing with like the experienced players, right? So that way I could get better and stuff. And as a golfer, right, I don't think like age doesn't give you like an edge, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like I can get beat by a 12-year-old,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And they have more skill or something, right? So I would never like put a 12-year-old with other 12-year-olds that have been playing competitively for years, right? So the Operation 36 is based on, again, the juniors' personal progress. So if once they pass like tier 1, then they can move on to the next tier, and it's like a mix of ages too. So I do get a lot of parents that do want like a teenage class, right? But it's hard to have that when some teenagers are just starting to play, and then other teenagers are currently playing high school golf, right? Absolutely. So that takes away the fun aspect a little bit, but it can go both ways.
We had some technical difficulties with the sound here, but I wanted to hear from Cheyanne what her opinion was on how early a child should start playing golf or could start playing golf. This is a question I often receive, and I wanted to hear her perspective on it.
Well, honestly, again, it depends on the junior themselves, right? Definitely I'll let them like experiment, get them familiar, give them that club and let them swing, right? But if they're not interested, don't push them, right? That's the biggest difference. But if they are interested and have that passion, do encourage it, but don't force it, right? Let them, go at their own pace. So
yeah, that's huge.
So, and I feel like 3-year-olds that aren't interested in golf at that year, right? We already planted that seed, and they may come back 5 years down the road or 30 years later, right? True. And you get a lot of people like, oh, I should have stuck with golf, or, or I wish I started earlier or something, right? Definitely. So there's, I don't know, life. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is being a junior golfer, starting young with lessons and things. I think the biggest difference for me that I'm really grateful that my parents pushed on me was was following through on my commitments. So if I committed and agreed that I wanted to take 5 lessons in a package with my coach, then I had to follow through on those 5 lessons. So that was when I was in middle school, probably more like, older than 6. So, but I think that was the biggest difference of not forcing the sport, while also if I committed to a season, I was going to finish the season. I think that was a good perspective to have. If I didn't want to sign up for the next season, that was fine. Yeah. But I had to commit to my, or I had to follow through on my commitments.
Yeah. And that's, again, golf teaches so many life lessons. And even for me that has been playing for a while, it continues to teach me those lessons too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the beauty about the game or any sport too. For that junior specifically, if they don't love golf, right, there's always another sport. Yeah. But they'll still learn those life lessons through that sport too. So again, it goes back to letting the junior set that pace, right? And let them speak their voice and let their individuality be expressed. Yeah, through their choices. Yeah,
that's huge. Yeah. And I think also on that topic, golf complements a lot of other sports too.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, time-wise, I know you don't want to fill a junior schedule with all sorts of different sports, and you want them to focus on certain ones that they're more passionate about. Definitely get that. But I also think golf can balance out some of the other sports.
Yes.
And just like it balances out a lot of our life as adults, right? Like we seek out
golf on the weekend as a little escape from our routine and our realities in a lot of ways, and disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think if we can encourage juniors to do that,
that
also could be helpful. Maybe a clinic or a meetup or a family round, like once every once in a while, or once every few weeks, while they're still focusing on basketball or they're still focusing on whatever. So it's not a cut and dry. That's where I think where we get into a lot of people who say, I wish I would have done this when I was young, or I'm mad at my parents for not teaching me golf. When I'm like, well, they probably were really pushing you in that sport you're passionate in. And you probably weren't even interested in golf.
True. So, at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, they were still being great parents just because they didn't teach you a lifelong sport. So I think incorporating that, and then people who have the muscle memory of like, oh yeah, I did this with my family every once in a while growing up, they pick up the sport a lot better later in life if they go back to it.
Yeah. And that's a great point that you brought up too. So like golf, you don't use a lot of power compared to basketball. So like for the juniors, especially like the 3 to 6 year olds, they have more control of their bigger muscles, but they don't have control of the smaller muscles. So golf can come in hand to help develop those muscles specifically too.
Quite literally, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's a good point of that grip strength and the coordination.
Yes, so is feeling that swing. Feel a lot of us nowadays are trying to like kill it, right? And it's like, no, let the club do the work. And it's so fascinating too, watching those little juniors too. Like they just aren't thinking, they just flow.
On the topic of developing motor skills with golf equipment, obviously we're now talking about little golf clubs and little golf equipment for little hands. So we know there's a few different junior golf programs. Obviously, Pops Junior Golf is one of them. But have you found there to be good programs that support getting, children's sized golf equipment, or good resources for parents to know about?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great question. US Kids does a great job of when you buy a set from them and your child outgrows that set, you can return those clubs and get a discounted rate for the bigger set.
Oh, nice.
That set, and then I know it was Forge, I believe, is another great golf company that does that as well.
Oh, nice.
And it's great because a lot of those clubs are very light, right? Especially like the shaft and the club head itself, and allows the juniors to have more control and develop more natural swing speed. When that club is heavy, of course, right? They're trying to like muscle it through, and their sequencing is off, and it just isn't fun at that point for them.
From our conversation, Cheyanne made it really clear that golf should be fun for your junior. And part of that is setting an intention for the time at the golf course. So asking your child what they like to do within the space of the golf games that you may introduce to your child, as well as other activities centered around golf. One other thing she mentioned was in the Pops Junior program, they don't stick to just golf.
So we have a lot of junior workshops too that we've always hosted. Like in the past, we've done yoga and fairway flow, just talking about like gratitude, meditation, just being present, and like using a lot of like rotational exercises, mobility that can be incorporated in their swing, right? Especially that way they can be more in touch with their body, right? They're still like, you know, getting used to how it works and stuff, strengthening. And another great workshop was like sippy cup and paint too, where the juniors came out and they like painted like a golf ball or something. Last time it was like Star Wars themed too, which is neat. But again, it's not about getting the juniors to become a golfer. It's about allowing them to express themselves, you know, learn about their strengths and their weaknesses and discover what they like, and that way they can gravitate what they want to do for the rest of their life, right? That's the bigger picture of it all, right? So again, if a junior decides to like, I don't want to play golf anymore, that's totally fine, you know, and it's great that we offer this so that way they can discover that themselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So. Or maybe even they decide they don't want to go to the clinics, but they'll go to the sippy cup and paint or the yoga or the,
and it plants that seed like, hey, maybe I want to do like more arts and crafts stuff, and they'll sign up for an arts and crafts class instead. And I think I can really relate to this because in college, I became like sleep, eat, drink, golf, right? And once college was done and over with, graduated, it was like, what do I do now? Like, who am I, right? And it was hard to really like find myself again, like who is Cheyanne besides golf, right? So I want to make sure like juniors don't feel that way.
That's huge.
Not seen as like a number or their value is based on like passing these tests, or we don't really care about that at the end of the day. So
that's incredible.
Thank you so much today for sharing all your wisdom in this and your experience. The Pops Junior program is fantastic. If someone is not in Mesa, Arizona, or not close to the Pops Junior program, what's something else they can do to learn from the program and maybe get their child involved in some way? Oh,
that's a really good question. I would always say like look at other programs in your area, like First Tee is great, girls golf, all across the country, and then definitely look up local golf courses and see if they have junior programs there. And also just simply buy a putter first and a wedge. Those are pretty inexpensive. You can go to Goodwill or something used. And the short game area is always free, and a lot of the golf courses too anyways have rental clubs as well, for free which is awesome. And just try it out, just make it fun, gamify it, and don't be afraid to ask questions at the golf course too. We're more than happy to help. So
that's awesome. So all great recommendations, Cheyanne. Again, we thank you so much for your time and everything you're doing for families and for juniors in the golf industry, but also just as a whole, making an impact in the world.
No, thank you for starting this and just allowing the voices to be heard and letting the knowledge be out there, so that way those that are looking for it, it's there. Right?
So. Oh, thank you. My job's easy just to ask the question. If you need more ideas on how to get your family, especially your juniors, interested in golf, you can go to meaningfultopicspodcast.com and sign up to get newsletters and a PDF specifically about how to get families into golf, and lots of activities you can do that are fun and for a range of skill levels. Thanks for watching.